Welcome to toy-polloi.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi, and today we're going to be taking a look at the latest creations from Stan Solo, which is run by Chris Smith, formerly of Smith Lord Creations, and those are the C-3POs that you see in front of me. Now Chris has recently been working on making a Droids version of C-3PO, also a Glasslite version of the Droids version of C-3PO, and a Glasslite version of the standard C-3PO that you would have seen in Return of the Jedi. So here in front of me you can see the carded and loose versions of each of those three figures, and we're going to take a look at each one individually. First up, we're going to take a look at the Glasslite version of C-3PO with the removable limbs. Now, Kenner didn't have a worldwide license for producing toys, so in some countries they were produced by their own companies, and that was Glasslite in Brazil. And as you can see, they took a slightly different sort of tack when it came to these figures. They used the same moulds as Kenner, but they didn't bother putting the gold sort of chromed finish on top of it, and they also didn't put the sort of metal rivet in the back of the figure, but the moulds are exactly the same. So this works the same as a normal removable limb C-3PO, and you can pull those arms off. You can see that's the arms coming off, and we can also pull the legs off, and it is exactly the same as the figure that you would have had from Kenner, just without that sort of nice chrome finish. As you can see, that this is a very nice sort of reproduction version of the C-3PO figure. On the back there is a slight difference if you're worried about sort of how sort of different these are to original Glasslite figures. The copyright information has been replaced there with an SS on the back to signify Stan Solo rather than the Glasslite information that would have been on the figure. Now this figure is also available on a card, and let me bring that in, because as with other figures that Chris has worked on, the cards are fantastic. This is a lovely recreation of the Glasslite cards. Now Glasslite cards, the fronts of them were pretty much all the same. The only bit of information that changed was the name of the figure, and you see here it says C-3PO, and in Portuguese it also says removable arms and legs there. So it's a fairly sort of standard card on the front. It has all the sort of normal information that you would expect, and if we turn it over you can see the other figures that were available from the Glasslite line and the sort of slightly modified versions of the ships. As with all figures from Stan Solo, it does say clearly marked on the bottom there. You can see it says Stan Solo, so it's very easy to spot these if you're worried about this being mistaken for an original Glasslite figure. But as I say, the way this has been produced and the sort of weight and feel of the cards, Chris has always managed to get a very good finish on these. They just look the part and they really do feel the part, and especially these figures, they just feel like original Star Wars figures. They've got a lovely weight to them and a lovely sort of quality, and I do like the fact that this isn't sort of gold plated and it's just done as sort of this gold plastic. It's a nice sort of finish to it. I actually quite like that. I almost prefer it to the original C-3PO. Unlike the rest of the world, the Glasslite version in Brazil didn't come with any accessories, so for the rest of the world we had this nice little carry net, and you could take C-3PO apart, pop him on Chewbacca's back to recreate the famous scene from Empire Strikes Back. But in Brazil all you got was the figure. You could remove his limbs, but there was actually no way to sort of pack him up and sort of way to play with him with Chewbacca. So that's a little bit of a shame, but I guess it made the figures a bit cheaper to produce, and that's why they were doing it. As well as the Return of the Jedi versions, there are also these two versions from the Droids cartoon. Now, back in the day, Kenner just took the mould that they'd used for the Return of the Jedi version of C-3PO and recast it in yellow plastic with an extra few little bits of paint to be the version that you would see in the Droids cartoon. And that is exactly what Chris has done as well with the Stan Solo version. So you can see this has been cast in yellow plastic with extra little paint details on it, because C-3PO actually has proper eyes in this version. You can see there they've got little white dots with little blue bits in the centre to recreate the sort of look of the character in the cartoon. Again, this is a removable limbs version of C-3PO, so we can easily pop these arms on and off, and also the legs on and off. Now I have to say, this is a remarkably good sort of version of the Droids one. There are a couple of subtle differences for those people who like to know sort of what differences there are between these figures and the original ones that were produced back in 1988. Now with this version, the Kenner version of this figure actually has clear plastic inside. If we look inside where you remove the arms, there's a little bit of plastic. Now on the Stan Solo versions you can see this is a white piece of plastic. On the original Kenner ones that was actually a clear piece of plastic, so that's a very subtle difference. But if you want to sort of double check that your figure is not a Stan Solo version, then that's the way to do it. But again, these are marked, so you can see the little SS on the back for Stan Solo, and it is a really lovely sort of recreation. Now this again is available on card, so we can take a look at the Kenner version of the card. Now the front of this card card has a nice still from the cartoon showing R2-D2 and C-3PO being menaced by a ship there. It also comes with a collector's coin on the top, so I'll just do a little close-up of that. So you can see that's a lovely gold coin that says Protocol Droids, C-3PO Protocol Droid, and it's got R2 and C-3PO on there. And again, the figure is nicely sort of held on with a blister, which again, I'm not quite sure how they do it, but they've managed to get the same sort of waffle pattern that you can see on the original figures, the way the plastic is sort of glued to the card. It's a very sort of well done recreation. And if we flip this over, you can see all the details of the other figures that are available in the Droids line. So far, Chris has only done C-3PO and the R2-D2, so make sure and check out some of my previous videos to see the Droids version of R2-D2. And again, on the bottom of this, it is clearly marked Stan Solo there, just above the Droid action figures of proof of purchase that you could send off to get other figures back in the day. So it very clearly says Stan Solo there. Now, as I say, he's also made the Glasslite version of this figure, and there are some very subtle differences between these two versions. The paint application on the Glasslite version, the blue is slightly darker. And I have to say, there's actually one little thing that they have missed when recreating this. The Glasslite version of C-3PO should have black eyes, and this still has the blue eyes there, so another little subtle way that you can tell if you're worried that you know, your figure is either a vintage or a sort of retro style one from Stan Solo. The eyes on the original one were actually black, so there's a slight difference there, but again, it's just a lovely figure. It's pretty much the same thing with just a slightly darker paint scheme on the blue. I mean, it is quite subtle. It probably doesn't even come up on this camera, but you can see it is just subtly darker. And again, the carded version, this is the Glasslite version of the figure. I don't think the artwork changed on the Glasslite versions on the front of these, apart from just having the name there on the top, but again, it's the Brazilian version, so it's all in Portuguese on the top. Turn it over, and a bit more information on the other figures available in the line. And as with the other cards, you can see it does say Stan Solo in the bottom corner there. As you can see, all three figures are really nicely produced, and they do have a real sort of look and feel of the original figures that were released back in the day. All of these figures are available either loose or carded. I'll put links in the description to show you where you can get all of these figures, and keep checking back, because I know Chris and Stan Solo are working on some other versions of this Protocol Droid, because in all of the Star Wars films you see different versions of C-3PO. There are white versions, there are silver versions, and some other different sort of colour variants, and I know Chris is working on making some of these as completely custom figures using the basic mould of C-3PO to get them done. So hopefully when those are out, Chris will send over some and I can review those for you, because the production images that I've seen so far look fantastic. I hope this video has been of interest to you, so if you want to see more, make sure to tap the subscribe button and also tap the bell to be notified each time I upload a new video, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.